Frosted boxes stacked in the freezer promise quick comfort. The photo shows golden crusts, bubbling cheese, chef-crafted meals ready in minutes. But tear it open, and what do you get? Salt bombs, aging oils, and steam that smells more like chemicals than dinner. For seniors on heart or kidney meds, this isn't food, it's a gamble. Let's count down 7 frozen foods to avoid, and 2 that are actually safe. Coming in at number 7, we've got frozen breakfast sandwiches, the fast fuel that hits like a salt brick. The box screams protein-packed morning starter. Ads show a golden egg, melted cheese, and a sausage patty stacked high like it came fresh off a diner griddle. But open one up, and the truth is ugly. That egg is a rubbery puck cooked weeks ago, the cheese sweats in the wrapper, and the bun tastes like a damp sponge reheated in the office microwave. Here's the betrayal. One sandwich can pack 1,000 to 1,300 milligrams of sodium. That's half the daily limit in a single bite. The FDA says adults should stay under 2,300 milligrams a day, and seniors on blood pressure or kidney meds need even less. Yet these frozen convenience meals slam you with cured meats, aging oils, and flavor enhancers that trick your taste buds while straining your body. Those so-called egg patties aren't just eggs at all. They're bulked up with gums, stabilizers, and chemical binders so they don't collapse in the freezer. What looks like breakfast is really an engineered puck designed to sit on a warehouse shelf for months. That's why the texture is rubbery instead of fluffy. That's why the color looks too uniform to be real. You're not cracking into a farm-fresh egg. You're biting into a lab-made disc held together by additives most people can't even pronounce. Think about it. Is breakfast really worth fluid retention, heart palpitations, and swollen ankles later in the day? For seniors, the sodium and saturated fat can cause dangerous spikes in blood pressure before you even finish your coffee. You won't believe what's lurking inside the sausage either. Processed meats are loaded with nitrates, which Europe regulates more tightly than the US. Studies have tied high nitrate intake to colon cancer risk, yet American labels slap on a hearty breakfast slogan like it's nothing. So, what's the fix? Keep it simple. Toast a whole-grain English muffin, cook a real egg in a pan, and add fresh tomato slices. You'll get protein, fiber, and flavor without the chemical aftertaste. If you need frozen backup, look for whole grain, no meat, no cheese versions, then add your own healthy protein at home, packed with salt and rubbery eggs. And if that feels heavy, wait until you see how they've managed to ruin fried chicken straight from the freezer aisle. Sliding into spot number 6, frozen fried chicken. The box says crispy buttermilk, but what you really get is a soggy oil bath. Open the tray, and the first thing you'll see isn't golden crunch. It's a damp crust slumped against the plastic, with a shiny pool of grease gathering in the corner like yesterday's dishwater. The smell? Less grandma's kitchen, more burned fryer oil, reheated for the 10th time. The betrayal is bold. These brands sell you comfort and convenience, promising crispy, juicy chicken that tastes homemade. What you actually get is chicken dunked in industrial breading, pre-fried in cheap oils, then frozen and reheated until the coating acts like a sponge, sucking up every drop of grease. And here's the kicker. Just one serving can carry over 900 milligrams of sodium, nearly half a day's sodium limit gone before you even grab a hash brown or sip of coffee. And that's just the headline. Hidden in the breading and oils are trans fats that slip past weak labeling rules. Partially hydrogenated oils, the very ones doctors warn against, still sneak into these freezer staples. Each bite doesn't just taste salty, it delivers a slow double strike, blood pressure soaring from the sodium, arteries stiffening from the fats. For anyone already on heart or kidney meds, this combo isn't breakfast. It's a chemical ambush disguised as a meal. Triglycerides don't just creep up, they spike. Doctors warn that for seniors, that mix of sodium and fried fat pushes blood pressure sky high, while fluid retention leaves ankles swollen and hearts working overtime. Look closer at the crust. It isn't crispy. It's gummy, like damp cardboard under a greasy coat. Peel it back and you'll often find under-seasoned meat that's more rubber than chicken. Some ex-workers in processing plants have admitted the meat is often injected with saline to pump up weight before it's breaded. You're not paying for protein, you're paying for water and grease. Skip the freezer aisle. Buy real chicken thighs, toss them in a spice rub, and cook them in an air fryer. You'll get true crunch without the industrial sludge. Even marinated baked chicken at home is cleaner and cheaper in the long run. Quick pause. Are you shocked at how much sodium hides in these crispy freezer pics? What's the worst frozen food disaster you've ever microwaved? Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe for the rest. And if you thought greasy chicken was bad, just wait until you see what frozen TV dinners are hiding under that layer of plastic film. Dropping into the number 5 spot, frozen TV dinners, especially the so-called Salisbury steak meals. At first glance, the tray looks like balance. Meat, mashed potatoes, veggies, and a pool of brown gravy tying it all together. But peel back the film, and you'll see the truth. A gray meat puck, gummy potatoes that cling to your fork like paste, and a vegetable medley that's more decoration than nutrition. The betrayal is huge. These meals market themselves as quick, balanced dinners. Family recipe, chef-inspired, classic comfort food. But the nutrition label tells another story. One tray can pack 1,200 to 1,400 milligrams of sodium, basically your entire day's safe limit if you're on heart or kidney meds. And the so-called gravy? It's not meat drippings. It's a chemistry set. Modified cornstarches, caramel color, and added sugars. That rich brown sauce often contains more sweetener than the peas sitting in the corner. But here's the real shocker. The FDA allows these meals to claim they're balanced even though the veggies may weigh less than 2 ounces. That's barely half a cup, hardly a serving. Meanwhile, the mystery steak is usually a blend of beef scraps and soy fillers pressed into shape. Bite into it and you'll get a spongy chew that feels less like beef and more like cafeteria sponge. Seniors are hit the hardest. That combo of sodium and sugar doesn't just leave you bloated. It sends blood pressure spiking and then crashes blood sugar, which can be dangerous if you're already managing diabetes or taking multiple meds. Some nutrition watchdog groups say these meals can have more sodium than a fast food burger combo, which is wild considering they're marketed as better for you. So, what's the fix? Skip the freezer tray of rubbery Salisbury steak, drowning in caramel-colored gravy. Instead, grab a bag of frozen plain vegetables, broccoli, peas, green beans, and steam, or sauté them in minutes. Pair that with a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store, and you've already cut the sodium in half, ditched the sugar-laced gravy, and swapped in real protein. The best part? You actually recognize what's on your plate. Vegetables that snap when you bite, meat that tastes like chicken instead of filler. It's faster, cheaper, and doesn't leave you wondering what exactly you just swallowed. Picture this: gluey potatoes, a limp steak patty, and then you roll it all into one giant wrap. Yep, the frozen burrito is next. At number 4, frozen burritos, the sad roll that pretends to be dinner. Pick up the box and you'll see words like hearty, protein-packed, and authentic. Heat it up, though, and what you actually get is a sodium grenade wrapped in a gluey tortilla. One burrito can hit 700 to 800 calories with 1,000 milligrams of sodium or more, according to nutrition databases. That's nearly half a senior's safe daily limit in a single roll. The betrayal is clear. You expect beans and fresh fillings. Instead, you're chewing through cheap refried paste, processed beef crumbles, and stabilized sauces that taste more like preservatives than salsa. The tortilla itself is refined white flour with conditioners and gums to make it freeze-stable. In Europe, several of those additives wouldn't even make it past regulators. But here in the US, the FDA lets natural flavors cover a laundry list of lab-made tricks. But here's the real shocker. Fiber is almost missing. Most frozen burritos pack only 2 to 3 grams, when a real bean burrito could have 3 times that. Without fiber, blood sugar spikes like a firework and then crashes, leaving seniors dizzy or drained. Add the sodium, and now you've got a combo that can throw blood pressure off balance and clash with common heart and kidney meds. The tortilla doesn't just get soggy, it turns into a gummy, rubbery wrap that clings to your teeth. The ends bleed grease, pooling on the plate like an oil spill. Slice it open, and the fillings don't stay firm. They collapse and slump out in a grayish mess, looking closer to canned pet food than a meal. The beans are pasty, the cheese sweats, and the meat crumbles into mystery bits that smell faintly metallic. That isn't dinner. That's a lab experiment gone wrong, yet it's marketed as hearty, home-style flavor. Who's buying this lie? So what's the fix? Skip the freezer box and go with a simple kit at home. Whole grain wraps, black beans, roasted veggies, and a sprinkle of cheese. You'll get real protein, actual fiber, and less than half the sodium. Or, if you must buy frozen, look for brands with visible veggies and no cheese, no meat versions that keep the salt in check. Because nothing says Italian night like a tortilla stuffed with grease, right? Well, the frozen pizza section is about to make you miss takeout even more. Sliding in at number 3, frozen pizzas, the box that promises a pizzeria night but delivers a chemical salt disc. Open one up and you're greeted with what looks like pepperoni perfume. But the reality? Nitrate overload. One serving can pack 1,500 milligrams of sodium or more. That's nearly the entire daily limit the American Heart Association recommends. And let's be honest, when's the last time you ate just one slice? The betrayal here is sharp. The box shows golden cheese and artisanal crust. What you actually get is processed meat riddled with nitrates and nitrites, chemicals linked by multiple studies to cancer risk. The sauce? Sweetened with hidden sugars to balance all that salt. It's marketed as family-friendly, yet it's the kind of family dinner that leaves seniors bloated, retaining water, and wondering why their blood pressure meds suddenly feel like they're failing. But here's the real shocker. In many European countries, nitrites in processed meats are tightly regulated or banned. In the US, the FDA still allows them, tucked under preserved with. So when you heat up that frozen pizza, you're getting more than gooey cheese. You're getting a dose of additives that other countries decided were too risky. And the sensory horror is hard to miss. That first bite often greets you with an oil sheen that pools on the cardboard tray. The crust, frozen stiff, turns gummy in the center while the edges crack like drywall. One viewer called it cheese-flavored rubber on a sponge. Doesn't sound like dinner, does it? So what's the fix? If you crave pizza, go for thin-crust veggie versions with lighter cheese. Cauliflower crusts are a solid option too. They keep the carbs down and the fiber up. Or better yet, build your own with whole-grain flatbread tomato sauce and fresh toppings. Takes 10 minutes. Tastes like food, not a factory. Pizza wasn't enough, so the freezer gods decided to mess up pasta too. Say hello to the Alfredo swamp. At number 2, frozen pasta trays, white sauce comfort that comes with a heavy price. Open one up, and you'll see the promise of creamy Alfredo or bubbling lasagna. But behind that frozen block is a calorie bomb. A single tray can carry 800 to 900 calories, half the daily need for many seniors. Add in over 40 grams of saturated fat, and you've basically swallowed your cholesterol limit before lunch. The marketing calls it Italian comfort. The reality is industrial food science. Stabilized cream sauces built to survive freezer burn, plus added sugars hiding in the tomato base. Instead of Parmesan melting in layers, you're often eating hydrogenated oils disguised as cheese blend. And those corner puddles? That's separated sauce, oil floating like a chemical slick on top of starch. Sodium levels often climb past 1,200 milligrams per serving, sometimes more than a Big Mac with fries. For seniors on heart meds or kidney treatments, this isn't dinner. It's a setback waiting to happen. Blood pressure spikes, fluid retention kicks in, and suddenly the easy meal isn't so easy. And the sensory side is brutal. The lasagna noodles turn gummy, clinging to each other like wallpaper paste. Alfredo pools into greasy corners, leaving clumps that taste like chalk mixed with oil. One whistleblower from a frozen food plant admitted, "The pasta isn't cooked. It's steamed, cooled, and frozen so fast it never gets texture back." Want pasta without the punishment? Here's the fix. Skip the frozen Alfredo tray and start simple. Grab a bag of frozen plain gnocchi or whole grain pasta. Toss it with a jarred tomato basil sauce. No cream, no mystery stabilizers. Add a handful of fresh spinach or toss in frozen peas straight from the bag. 10 minutes later, you've got a real meal with color, texture, and nutrients instead of oily sludge. The sodium drops, the calories balance, and you'll actually feel good afterward. Dinner shouldn't feel like a dare, it should taste like food. Cream sauces that separate in the microwave. And you thought seafood might be safe? Guess again, fish sticks are next. Finally, at number 1, frozen fish sticks. The crust that outnumbers the catch. The box promises golden crunch and ocean fresh flavor. But open the tray, and what you're really getting is bread with a fish accent. Most sticks are over 60% batter, leaving only a thin streak of low-quality pollock or tilapia inside. The omega-3 rich claim? More like omega none. You'd need to eat half a box just to match the nutrients in one plain salmon fillet. A serving of 10 to 12 sticks piles up more than 700 milligrams of sodium before the ketchup or tartar sauce even lands on the plate. For seniors on blood pressure or kidney meds, that sodium load is a direct clash with their health. The FDA has flagged frozen breaded seafood for high sodium levels for years, but the labels hide behind serving size tricks. The horror doesn't end there. Pull them from the oven and watch the steam turn the breading soggy, like wet cardboard. Does the fish smell? Less fresh catch and more like a high school hallway after the cafeteria's tuna surprise. One ex-line worker even joked on a staff forum, "We used to call them breadsticks with a fish rumor." Instead of this freezer letdown, here's a fix. Buy frozen plain salmon or cod portions, the kind without breading. Pop them in an air fryer with a spice rub, and you'll get actual protein without the grease bath. Europe already regulates additives in battered seafood tighter than the US, so don't wait for the FDA to catch up. Would you really trust your dinner to a breadcrumb disguise? Or would you rather know what you're eating? Drop your worst frozen fish stick story in the comments. Now for the good news. We've dragged you through 7 frozen foods to avoid, but there are 2 freezer staples that actually deserve a spot in your cart. Let's start with the first safe pick. Safe pick 1. Frozen vegetables, no sauce. Picked, frozen, done. No flashy box art here, just a bag of broccoli, peas, or carrots frozen at peak ripeness. Unlike the buttery sauce blend versions that drown you in salt and mystery powders, the unsauced bags give you vegetables exactly as they are. Flash freezing locks in vitamins C and K, and often makes them more nutrient-dense than fresh produce that's been shipped across the country for 2 weeks. Here's the real win. 0 added sodium. A full cup of frozen peas has just 4 milligrams of sodium. Compare that with a so-called steamed veggie side at a chain restaurant that loads on 400 milligrams before the butter even melts. For older adults managing blood pressure, potassium in these vegetables actually helps offset sodium, something processed frozen meals will never tell you. But here's the shocker. Some brands still sneak in sauces or cheese dust to push flavor. That's where the FDA allows natural flavors to cover a mix of additives you'd never guess. So when you're buying, stick with the plain stuff. Bright color is your best indicator. It should look like food, not neon sludge. The sensory difference is huge. Toss plain frozen green beans into a pan with a little olive oil and garlic, and you'll get a snap that tastes alive. No gluey sauce film, no chemical steam wafting out of the microwave. Just food that actually tastes like itself. And for those on heart or kidney meds, this choice doesn't throw your system into chaos. Instead of spiking your pressure, frozen plain vegetables help steady it. Their natural potassium helps balance sodium, easing the load on your arteries. Fiber keeps blood sugar stable, too, a win for anyone managing diabetes. In Europe, frozen produce isn't seen as a shortcut. It's a trusted staple, often safer than fresh that's been sitting in transit for weeks. It's cheap, it's easy, and it delivers nutrients without the hidden junk. Sometimes the freezer really does hold the healthiest choice. So here's your fix. Keep a bag in your freezer, stir it into eggs, soups, or even pasta. Real fiber, real nutrients, no doctor's side-eye. Would you swap your creamy Alfredo tray for this kind of clean fuel? Or do you still trust the box with the cartoon chef on it? Drop your answer below. And now, let's finish with the second safe pick, one that's sweet, simple, and still on your grocery freezer shelf. Safe pick 2. Frozen fruit, unsweetened. No syrup, no sticky glaze, no fake tropical blend dusted with sugar. Just fruit, picked at peak ripeness, and locked down in the freezer before it even hits the truck. Blueberries, strawberries, mango chunks, what you see is what you get. And here's the kicker. Unlike canned fruit drowning in heavy syrup, unsweetened frozen fruit keeps its vitamin C and antioxidants intact. But here's the shocker. The FDA allows companies to call something lightly sweetened when it's loaded with 15 grams of added sugar per half cup. That's not lightly sweetened, that's a dessert. Stick with the plain bags. The difference is massive. 1 cup of frozen blueberries has 4 grams of fiber and enough polyphenols to help calm inflammation. Studies even show these compounds help regulate blood sugar after meals. For seniors watching glucose or dealing with blood pressure meds, that's not just food, it's backup support for your system. Compare that to the sugar-loaded smoothie blends that taste like melted candy bars. The sensory payoff? Straight from the bag, it's cold, juicy, and naturally sweet without syrup coating your tongue. Drop a handful into yogurt, toss it into oatmeal, or blend it into a smoothie cube. You get flavor that actually tastes like fruit, not like gummy bears. So here's your fix. Keep a bag of unsweetened frozen berries on hand. They last for months, cost less than fresh fruit out of season, and give you nutrients without the sugar bomb. Europe's been labeling sugar-free frozen fruit for years, while the US still lets fruit cocktail slide under health halos. What's the sweetest frozen fruit you trust enough to keep stocked at home? Name your go-to in the comments. And now, you've seen the worst offenders and the 2 that actually earn freezer space. But the question is, will you still trust the shiny boxes lining your frozen aisle after this? Don't let freezer shortcuts fool you. Most come loaded with salt, sugar, and regret. If this breakdown opened your eyes, hit subscribe for more food truths. Want the next expose? Click the video on the left right now.